for Game Changers, presented by Right Brand Bacon, where we're going to be talking with NFL draft expert Russ Lande about future game changers at the next level. I want to talk to you today about a bunch of guys who could have entered the draft last spring, decided to come back. Give me your number one guy who you think has benefited most from that decision.
Well, it's got to be Khalil Mack from Buffalo. I mean, coming into the season, he was viewed as sort of a good player in the MAC who had a chance of being a third-round pick. But since he started the season off crashing Ohio State and just playing phenomenal there, he's just been on the rise ever since. He's an explosive pass rusher, dominant run defender, and has rare competitiveness. This is a guy that's almost assured of being a top 15, potentially a top 5 pick in the whole draft because of his ability to get to the quarterback.
All right, how about a player whose stock has substantially dropped by that decision to stay in school?
You know, unfortunately, it's Stephen Morris from Miami. I think coming into the year, opposite Mac, as opposed to Mac, people thought he had a chance to be a first-round pick. He's a top athlete with a big arm. But throughout the year, you've seen a lot of inconsistency, both with his footwork, his mechanics, and his accuracy. And I think, therefore, for a guy that had a chance to be a first-round pick, now scouts are telling me maybe 4th round at the top, but potentially even later than that, which is astonishing for a guy with such great physical talent.
Decision-making is another thing that
Major
you've heard.
Question, yep.
Right, and it certainly hasn't helped that he was banged up part of the year with an ankle injury. That will create further questions. I want to ask you about 2 other guys. Taj Boyd, who might be among the most high-profile of those who decided to come back, broke 52 school records at Clemson, set the all-time ACC passing touchdown record. How do you think he's done?
You know, and as opposed to, I think a lot in the public are saying, you know, he's hurt himself. NFL scouts have been really impressed with what he's done this year. He hasn't had a great year, a great game every week, but what he's done is he's displayed the ability to sort of pick himself up, get the team going in the right direction. Like when they got blown out by Florida State, he didn't just throw it in the bag. He's really shown sort of that leadership that NFL teams are excited about. You hear a lot of Russell Wilson comparisons when you talk to scouts about this guy. Don't be shocked if he goes in the 2nd or 3rd round.
Certainly a good player to be compared to. And finally, how about UCLA's Anthony Barr? All of the talent so many people say of the Jadeveon Clowney. This is part of why I'm glad he's moving on to the NFL. But not as much of the hype.
Well, I think when you look at Barr, this is a guy 2 years ago he was a running back, so he's still developing. A year ago he looked like a great pass rusher, but the rest of his game was sort of lacking. This year he's done a ton in coverage, he's been dominant against the run, and still displays that rare initial quickness and natural ability to turn the corner that NFL teams are just desperate for. So when I've talked to scouts around the league, surprisingly, every one of the guys I've spoken to said, hey, if they had to choose, they would take him ahead of Clowney right now if the draft were held this week.
Well, I was out in LA a couple of weeks ago and sitting down with him, and he said one of the most beneficial things for him is that they've moved him around so much, just in terms of his versatility, what he'll be able to offer at the next level. I think that's probably increased too.
Oh, it's huge because he's not just a sort of one-scheme guy. He's not just a 4-3 end. Now he can be a 3-4 outside linebacker who can excel in coverage. He can play in a 4-3 where you let them light up liner. He can do whatever you want because he's proven it this year.
As always, good stuff. Russ Lande, thank you.
You got it.